It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Don't let short-term emotions cause you to make a decision with long-term impacts. But what am I talking about there?
Yeah, this one was really frustrating to me because, again, this is a part of the story I didn't know. It was in, I think it was the semifinals or something like that. Scottie Pippen, this is when...
In the year that Jordan was playing baseball.
In the year that he was gone. So he was off. So Scottie Pippen had kind of risen to be the team captain, and he was the leader. And it came down to the last few seconds, and Phil Jackson, rather than calling a play that put the ball in Scottie Pippen's hands, he put it in Tony Kukoc's hands, right?
Exactly.
And Scottie was so upset about that, he said, I'm not going in.
Yeah.
Like when his team needed him the most, because he was emotional, because he didn't get his number called, he chose to sit that play out. As an athlete, or as a former athlete, that's just mind-blowing to me. Like that.
You can call yourself an athlete. You have a gym in your garage.
Well, I do have a gym in my garage. But it blew my mind that Scottie did that, because here's what I think is so sad. It did tarnish his reputation a little bit. He had to carry the weight of that very emotional, very short-term, very small decision into the rest of the games they played that year, into the next season. He had to overcome that all because of one very quick lapse of judgment, because he knew better.
We see this all the time in financial matters too, is that if you're looking at planning concepts from this, is that we see people all the time through emotional, once again, just like Scottie Pippen, very emotional, make a short-term decision that has huge, not a ripple effect, but a wave, a crashing tsunami of a wave from making this behavioral thing. And here's what, let me give you some examples. We just came through a pandemic. Markets got beat up. If you went to cash on March 24th, holy cow, you're probably like, whoo, when we're going to get back in this thing? You know, because we've had a huge recovery.
It might have felt good for a moment, but you're not feeling great right now because of that decision.
And we've seen, I mean, we fortunately, our clients have held up nicely, but we have prospects that call us that is exactly what they did. And they call us to try to figure out, how do we do this? How do I get back into this? I can't figure out how to get back in. Because remember, when you time the market like that, Bo nailed it. In the short term, it might make you feel really good to go to cash, get the volatility out of the way. But man, as things start to recover, when we hit that V-shaped recovery and you're like,
what did I do?
Oh gosh, how do I get back into this thing? So, and you also we put this into the show notes. Just because you're upset at your boss doesn't mean you should necessarily have your Jerry Maguire moment. I know that's starting to show some age on it, but realize Jerry Maguire was one of these guys, got very upset with his boss, decided to go leave and start his own company. Now, it worked out great, and I'm not even going to say I didn't follow something like that.
But the difference is you didn't make an emotional decision.
Exactly.
You planned and you planned and you planned, and then you did it. It wasn't a short-term emotional, I'm going to do this.
I have given counsel to friends when they come to me and they tell me how dead end their job is, or there's something going on that just makes them really sad. I'm like, okay, but let's talk about where you go from here. What is success from here? Because you're just quitting your job. I'm thinking 3 steps ahead is, it's going to make you feel better that you went and had that take this job and shove it moment, and you're going to stick it to them, especially if you're on a big project, you're an important person. But what does that look like for your family? What does that look like for you financially? You better do some planning. Measure twice, cut once, so that you don't get yourself in a bind because you're just looking for that short-term boost. So pay attention to that, and I think you will be much better served.
Love it.
Let's move to a fun one. I like this one because this one was one of my favorite parts of The Last Dance. Slide 10 was, being good at what you do may result in extra flexibility at work.
This one, so a lot of people in this, again, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, we do a live stream. And so people have been saying, man, I can't wait to hear what their advice is going to be about going to Vegas or about leaving work or about Carmen Electric. Can't wait to see what their advice is there.
I mean, but we thought about this because we were like, man, how good must Dennis Rodman have been that his coach... Because just to set this up, and by the way, nobody is as good of a storyteller as Michael Jordan is. Yep. I realize not only is he a great basketball player, great storyteller. Because he was like, one of the things he shared was he got called into the office. And who's in the office is Dennis Rodman, Phil Jackson, and then Scottie Pippen. And coach tells Michael, hey, Dennis is saying he's kind of up to here. And he needs a vacation.
He needs a vacation.
And Jordan's like, if anybody needs a vacation, it's me. No, but he's got to blow some steam off, And Scotty and Phil Jackson's like, if I give you 48 hours, Dennis, because he wants to go to Vegas.
Right.
I mean, this is your coach saying 48 hours. Dennis Rodman, in the middle of a season, got to go to Vegas, and they show clips of him coming off an airplane, shotgunning a Miller Lite, or was it a Coors or Miller Lite, and then jumping on a motorcycle and driving off to go to Vegas, or he's in Vegas, and you're like, where in the world does this happen? And then what I thought was great about the storytelling is that Michael Jordan, because of course, Dennis Rodman didn't come back in 48 hours.
Right.
And it comes time to they need to go practice because they have a game coming up. And you see Michael Jordan say, I'm not going to tell you who was in the room, but I burst into that room in Vegas and I dragged his butt out of bed and took him. And then they immediately flashed to Carmen Electra and she goes, and Michael Jordan came bursting into the room. I mean, it was totally great editing. I give the credit to the producers and the directors. Great editing because Michael Jordan's like, I'm not going to tell you who's in the room. And then you got Carmen Electra telling you right there. So very unique situation that Dennis Rodman on such a valuable team, I mean, a team that is going towards championship, was so good at his job that he was not only, and this is what the show realized, this guy was also wrestling in the World Wrestling. I mean, I can't remember if it was WWF or WWE or whatever it was, but or WCW. I mean, Dennis Rodman was doing it all. That it shows how good he was. And I want you to think about it. If you're thinking about planning concepts of how you can do it, if you're really good at what you do, you're going to have options. Because, I'll tell you, one of our principals here at the firm is Carter. Mm-hmm. He's one of the main guys here. Carter came to us a few years ago and says, I want to dump my PC and go to a Mac. Go to a Mac. You're like, dude, we're in the business world. You don't do Macs.
Sense to do that.
If podcast has a Macintosh. Right. I mean, that's where. But you're a freaking financial planner. Uh-huh. But he is so good at his job. Guess who has a MacBook? Carter. I mean, that's what I'm telling you. If you are good at what you do and people recognize it, no, you're still going to put in the work, you're going to get extra flexibility. I mean, that is something I want you just to always think about that. If you are as good, you're going to probably get some opportunities there. And plus, it allowed me to tell the Carmen Electra story.
Oh, and I think another opportunity is, the better of a saver, and it's not just being good at work. I mean, that was what Dennis's thing. But the better of a saver, the better of an accumulator you are, the more diversified you spread the more flexibility you're going to have when you get to retirement. If you can be good at something, if you're just a good wealth builder, the better you are at that, the more flexibility it's going to afford you in retirement.
So think about that. When you're doing the deferred gratification, taking a little bit of today for a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, I want you to think about this is so you can chug the beer and jump on the motorcycle just like Dennis Rodman because Carmen Electra's waiting on you.
As the chief compliance officer, I need to come out and say that the Money Guy Show does not advocate drinking and motorcycling in Vegas.
Yeah, we didn't go into the hairstyles and the tattoos. Who would have known Wesley Snipes was such a great motivation for...
he really did do a Wesley Snipes hairdo to start. That was
we could go on. Dennis Rodman, man. If you're watching the show, come hang out in Nashville. I heard you had a bad first impression.
Nashville.
We'll hook you up the next time you come.